I haven't dated an Asian guy because they all kind of feel like my brother. Oh, we've all heard this phrase, and if you haven't, then you probably know someone who has said it, or maybe you're the person who has said it. I'm just kidding. But anyways, we got to talk about this because I am making this video. It's inspired by this video from Ryan Alex Holmes. Play it.
Why do I hear Asian women say they don't date Asian men because it feels like they're dating their brother, when I don't hear Asian men say they don't date Asian women because they feel like they'd be dating their sister? There's something deeper going on.
Maybe, just maybe, it has something to do with the exotification and fetishization of Asian women and the emasculation and hyposexualization of Asian men. Under a hierarchy of beauty dictated around Eurocentrism that produces a system where your value and your beauty is determined by the approval of those at the top of that hierarchy, which maybe can make you reject your own for the promise of acceptance to proximity of power you have never had access to. But of course, I'm not saying this is always the case, because love is blind and it can spurt forth in any wacky, wishy-washy scenario. But that may explain the pattern and the positioning. And if you find yourself offended by this, then maybe you are one of the ones that I'm actually talking to. To which I say, wake up. Fall in love with love and not the promise of a proximity to power. Anyway. Have a good day.
Boom! Big shout out to our Blasian, handsome Blasian ally, Ryan Holmes. I know him, a very solid dude. He brings up great points, and I'm glad he made this video. Now, am I going to break down everything that he said and whether I agree 100%? No, that's not what this video is about. But it is about why this answer, why some Asian women give this reasoning when they explain why they don't date Asian guys, and then also how you can broach the conversation. And then obviously there's a comment section that I got to analyze as well. So please hit that like button. Check out other episodes of the Hot Pot Boys if this video interests you. I have spoken to several what I would consider attractive Asian American women in my life about this. So I've had this conversation face-to-face with women, whether it was in a larger friend group, someone I just met, or even a girl I went on a date with, like, you know, that I was one of the first few Asian guys they went out with, and then we're having this conversation. And, you know, I'm at this point in my life, I'm able to have a very, like, intellectual, deep conversation about it with no emotions, although I have some judgment on the inside, but I don't make it obvious, and that's the key. Anyways, yeah, so let's just go into some possible reasons why women say this. And by the way, women watching, like, I'm empathizing with you. There are, first of all, legitimate reasons on why you don't date Asian men or why some women don't prefer Asian guys, even if they're Asian. That's not what I'm saying. Like, you don't have to date Asian guys. I'm not frustrated, or nobody's frustrated because you don't date Asian men. We're just frustrated that this is often used as a reason because it's the worst reason. Anyways, so possible reasons why some Asian women would use this as an excuse for not dating Asian guys is, one, she's sexualized and wants to date in the proximity of power, like what Ryan said. She just does not find Asian men sexually attractive or masculine, okay? And maybe she's just raised that way, unfortunately. Nowadays in 2025, I think it's a lot harder to feel that way because there are definitely some hot masculine Asian dudes out there, clearly, like, it's happening. They're getting their shine on. Number three, they have not, Asian men have not, like, presented themselves to her or approached her. And a lot of Asian women just date whoever pursues them. So then they, like, if Asian guys never pursue them, then they kind of end up slotting Asian guys in, like, the brother cousin category. Like, oh, well, I guess Asian guys are just not into me because they see me like their sister. Like, can you believe it? Some Asian women actually, like, that's their experience, you know? And I'm not saying that they're necessarily wrong for thinking that if that is their experience. And sometimes that is their experience. Unfortunately, Asian guys just don't present to them, hit on them and you know, compliment them and kind of like present themselves as sexual beings or romantic beings to them. Maybe number four, she might come from a town where she knew all the Asian guys, and then, you know, that's just how she's raised, where she literally knew, like, all the Asian guys in that town, like, went to her one church, and then, like, the other two Asian people at her school were literally, like, her brothers. So then, unfortunately, that's it, right? Also, I think a real reason is often, like, they have some type of either trauma or some type of bad taste, or something happened with the Asian men in their family, possibly their brother or father, that they kind of want to like escape from and stuff, which is logical. Actually, that's a logical reason. But also, yeah, some Asian women, they just don't want to double down on their Asianness because they're like, oh, I'm Asian enough. Like if I get with another Asian guy, then like I'm just being too Asian, and like now I can't go into other worlds and be in different cultures and stuff like that. But actually, one overlooked reason why some women use this as an excuse, or their reasoning for not dating Asian men, is that they actually haven't even been questioned and they haven't really thought about it. So, for example, like if an Asian woman like grows up and then she happens to get into like 2 to 3 significant long-term relationships with non-Asian guys, then she could easily have spent 8 to 10 years outside of the dating market for Asian guys and not had to really face this question, because obviously their non-Asian boyfriend's not really going to ask it. And then if no friends actually ask it because they're in a relationship already, like, you know, she just happens to date this one white guy or non-Asian guy for like 6 years. That's 6 years of her life where she's not thinking about dating. You know, you're not examining dating dynamics when you're in a relationship and you're happy necessarily, right? It's only when you go out in the dating world and you're single, now maybe these questions come. And especially as guys, obviously, single guys, you tend to think about the dating dynamics a lot. Maybe too much to an extent, but you think about them a lot. And so what I'm saying is like, it is legitimate that some women have not ever faced this question, and sometimes they just need to get challenged, you know, and just ask like, oh, can you explain that? Or like, oh, there's probably a deeper reason. So anyways, if you're like me, you're the type of Asian guy who's like totally down to have this conversation with women in person if it pops up. If we're talking about dating in a group, and even if it's like an Asian group and then there's this Asian girl who's like, oh, I've never really dated Asian guys. Like, I think there is sometimes a knee-jerk reaction from some Asian guys to be like, what? Oh, man, at that. Like, and I get that. I get that feeling, because like, I think there's still maybe a tiny part of me that's like, you know, I personally don't have trouble dating, so I don't need to date this person, you know. But if you're like attracted to her, or maybe you're getting friend zoned by her, or she's like a friend, or you thought that she wouldn't say something like that, then it could be hurtful, you know? And rightfully so, because she's basically saying like, oh, I'm writing off this entire group of men. That is the type of men that I come from. You know what I mean? So I guess like when you approach it, you know, like, also, I think this is another side thing. I think it's important. That's why, like, if you are attracted to a lady, you know, you properly compliment her and like let her know, like, hey, I'm not just your brother. I'm not like gonna act like your cousin or just coworker or a helpful friend. You know, like, I'm not just that helpful nerdy friend on the side. Like, I find you attractive. Let her know. Compliment her, please. You know, because there's no real good reason. Because it's like, yeah, how can all Asian guys look like her brother unless her brother literally looks like John Cho, Simu Liu, Takashi Kinshiro, Manny Jacinto, all wrapped into one person? Like, how is that possible? So anyways, what I'm saying, when you're having this conversation with people in person, in my opinion, the key is to ask questions, be curious why, but also don't take that as an answer. Don't let them just be like, oh yeah, I don't know. I just think they all seem like my brother. And I'm like, that's not a great answer. I think there's something deeper. Let's delve deeper in that. Let's find out. Because I think this is an answer that you can come back from. It's for some women, if they just haven't thought about it and that's just their gut reaction, if you could actually question them out of it to an extent where they're like, oh, yeah, actually, now that I think about it, it's just kind of flawed thinking. And yeah, I should just be like open to everybody. And yeah, that's interesting. Anyways, let's get into the comment section. This comment under Ryan's video said, yeah, I've always found that weird. Then they date the most mid-looking white guy. I think this guy's a black guy leaving this. And yeah, so this is definitely the mind-bending part of like, okay, so all the Asian guys are your brother, and then just like this mid-white guy is your like knight in shining armor. Obviously, there are some famous couples on the internet, like this guy and his wife from the Philippines, and you know, he pretty much goes viral for how ugly and anemic he looks. I'm sure they're nice people, but I don't know what their setup is, what their marriage setup is, and what she's allowed to do and what he's allowed to do. But it definitely is a jarring image. But anyways, even like black guys notice this, so they make TikToks about it.
I come before you today, humbled and humiliated, to ask you for one.
All right, so next comment is someone said, in a narrow Western Americanized scope, perhaps, but this is not the case in Asia. And then Ryan replies back and says, yeah, it is definitely more applicable to Western nations, of course, where Asians are a minority and European-blooded people run the country. But even Ryan is saying that there's even Eurocentrism across the world. And I actually do, I believe this. Like, the Eurocentric beauty standards have permeated the world because the European nations kind of won the world culturally. We're all speaking English. I'm speaking a European language right now. So they won the world. So of course, they probably get the upper hand and they get but here's one thing I have to say. A lot of people associate a big nose with being European, but I don't think that's necessarily only a European trait because we tend to do this thing where we associate, oh yeah, big nose. Oh, well, they look Eurocentric, so that's why they're attractive. But there's studies, and this is just a question, there's studies that show that a universally attractive trait is just a prominent nose. If you look at all these really good-looking Asian guys from Asia that are popular in Asia, they don't all have sharp noses, but they all have significant noses. And so I do think that it could be an evolutionary biology thing too, that you find if the guy has a prominent nose, then he's more fit to smell the prey when you hunt or something like that. I don't know what the evolution is, but definitely there is something to that. So yeah, I have a nose, but not a big one. Yeah, definitely not, kind of flat from the front. But anyways, this white guy says, people need to stop caring about other people's preferences. The vast majority of Asian women only want to date Asian men. If you have a problem with some Asian girls dating Westerners and make videos questioning why, using whatever tedious, hyperbolic words you can think of, congratulations, you are practicing racism. And then there's a whole discussion under this comment. And then someone said, you're white, so you don't know what it's like being Asian in America. Your comment is invalid and discarded. Let me know if you agree with that. Do I agree that his comment is discarded? I mean, yeah, he's definitely not he doesn't have the same perspective. So yeah. Someone said, bro, you are a white guy who moved to China, is absolutely benefiting from his whiteness. And then you're here arguing with a half Chinese, half black man about race dynamics in America. True. Guys, this white guy definitely has benefited from being a white European in China. 100% has benefited. So also an Asian woman chimes in, Asian women here, and he was absolutely correct in his statement. We were brainwashed to see our own men as unattractive and that white men were more attractive. So unless you have deconstructed your colonized mindset, blah, blah, blah. So actually, I don't know if that's a real woman. But anyways, I think all these aspects are true because man, I think basically I'll roll this TikTok of this girl. Just run it. So this TikTok from this girl, which is supposed to be kind of funny, but it really actually strikes a chord, and it actually kind of goes to show you the bump that white dudes can get. And so I think when we think about the Oxford study, which I'm not even really sure if that's the actual Oxford study, people just kind of went viral that way. But what I'm saying is that the reason why you see so many Asian girl and white guy couples is that there is fetishization on both sides, from both ends. Asian women are fetishizing the white guy in certain ways. The white guy's fetishizing the Asian girl in certain ways. For a lot of couples, not all couples, right? This does not apply to all couples. Some couples, some people are not fueled by this. But this TikTok this girl is making is obviously, based off of that. And then there's this last comment that goes, you can call those Asian girls with call them out with internalized racism. But the problem is now that non-white men like to leave it at the Oxford study, which is not really a real study, and it demeans Asian women. They're not hearing about the other complexities of Asian women settling for mid-white guys. Asian guys also take their frustration of being emasculated by other races out on Asian women, which is really unfair on the women to bear the brunt and to feel like that the Asian women belong to them. Yeah, so this lady makes some points. I want to say that this is a solid comment because one, Asian men don't own Asian women. Of course not. Clearly we don't. Clearly we cannot tell Asian women what to do. Just based on what has happened in history. And I don't think Asian men are the most like toxic and abusive on average to Asian women in general. And we don't like do as much public shaming in the community. So we're pretty chill about like Asian women. I don't really think like Asian men is the problem. What I will say this about Asian guys though, and Asian women is that I just think that Asian men are disappointed because we thought Asian women were going to be more on our side than they are. We thought Asian women were going to have our backs a little bit more than they ended up having. That's kind of how it feels. And it's tough because if you think about coming to America as minorities, trying to make a life, trying to be successful, trying to be happy, trying to find love, you know, it is a struggle. It is a battle. You can think about it as a battle. You can think about it as a war, some type of war. And it's like in a war, you want the team's support. It doesn't mean like Asian women can't date out, whatever. But it's like when Asian women were dissing on Asian dudes, or when they say they use this very terrible reason of like, oh, they seem like my brother. It's like, dude, what is your brother everywhere? Is that your brother? Is that your brother? Am I acting like your brother? So I think that those things are hurtful. Obviously, there's real reasons why Asian women prefer not to date Asian guys. That's fine. Like, you know, whatever, your dad, you don't like your dad and you associate your dad with other Asian men. I actually think that's a legit reason. But I just think Asian men thought Asian women were going to have their backs more and think a little bit more about it. And so I think when we hear phrases like, oh, they all seem like my brother, I'm just like, yo, that's really not thought out. Like, you really didn't think about this, did you? Because there's like almost no way that can actually be the real reason. There's got to be a reason behind it, a real reason that's a cover up, you know? And also Asian guys, like, we can go back and forth and talk about, oh, whose fault is it that Asian men are emasculated in America? Is it because Asian men themselves and what we represent, we didn't do a good enough job? Did we not work out enough? Did we not stand up for ourselves good enough? Were we too focused on academics and money? Or was it the media? Who had a bigger impact, the media or ourselves? I mean, at the end of the day, guys, I do think Asian men need to take some responsibility for that. You can't just sit here and always say, it's the media, the media, the media. It's like, of course, the media did not help. It did hurt. But I'm like, who you are is who you are and represent, you know? Now, maybe the media did brainwash certain people to not give you a chance, a proper chance, which is the media's fault, but you still have to live your everyday out in the world, you know, and be social and be masculine and be confident and be, you know, a value-adding guy. So anyways, in conclusion, you know, I just think that when we hear this phrase, like in 2025, or like Asian guys all feel like my brother, if someone's still saying that in 2025, I just think it's not well thought out or they're hiding something. It's one of those two. There's no way that's the real reason because I'm like, I thought we did so much work. Like I thought the media, like now the media is changing. We have all these things. It's almost like you can't really say that anymore. So, but that's fine. If you meet a girl and you're having this conversation with them, I think it's fine to just be like, hey, oh, by the way, what makes you say that? Or do you think that's the real reason? Because there's no way. And then you can always reference like, hey, I don't really see Asian women from other groups say that a lot. You know, whoever's, I don't think I've heard that. So yeah, it's just, you know, but I do think that even if you're like on a date and you're attracted to a girl and a girl says that at first, there's actually, by just like talking to her and just helping her work through that and actually challenging her and helping her think about that question, it can actually like kind of in a way like change her mind. Because some people, when you ask them questions about anything, any people, they just have like the feeling. They just like have this feeling, and they this feeling answer, but it's not the actual logical answer. So once you peel back the feeling and you get to the logic, then you get the real answer. Or maybe there is no answer and there is no reason, and that, you know, she comes around and dates Asian guys. I've seen it before because I've experienced it, okay? Yes. There have been 2 Asian American women in my life that I've had this conversation with that said something similar the first time I met them, and we ended up dating. So, you know, maybe you can get pissed at these women and say it's not worth your time, or you can take it upon yourself and have that conversation. And if they're not receptive to that conversation, then they're not worth your time. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully it was helpful. And until next time, I'm out. Peace.